Hello there, this is Mark from the YouTube channel Car Audio Fabrication. I'm here today with CT Sounds to show you how I built a custom subwoofer enclosure for a pair of 8-inch Strato subwoofers. This subwoofer box build will feature LED accent lighting and will be based upon a downloadable design from CT Sounds. Link to the design is in the video description. Let's begin. The box design gives us the cuts for each individual board. I'll start with cutting the front two pieces for the dual baffle along with the rear piece, as they are all the same size. You'll want to make sure and double check that each of these boards is the exact same size, as they are the basis for the rest of the build. Next we will cut the top and bottom pieces. Once again, these two pieces are exactly the same size and we'll want to check them as well. We continue to cut the pieces for the sides of our box along with the two port pieces and the brace. With these pieces complete, we will then adjust our table saw blade to 45 degrees and make a series of cuts, creating our corner 45s along with our port end brace piece. For cutting the 45s, I make a pass, adjust the fence towards the blade the width of our 45, flip the board, and then make another cutting pass. We are now finished using the table saw. This is a great time to double check all of our boards and make sure that they match the measurements on the design. Next, we are going to start marking out our layout for our front baffle. Using our blueprint, I draw the mounting holes and the port. For making the mounting holes, you can use this cool trick to draw a perfect circle. For marking out the port location, I simply use a square. Now we can move on to rough cutting our baffle with a jigsaw. Since I will be cleaning up the cuts with a router, I'm leaving about 1/8 inch of material. But if you do not have a router, you can carefully cut on the line. With my baffle rough cut, I'm using a circle template that I've made before that allows me to perfectly copy the cutout diameter for this 8-inch subwoofer. I stick the template to my baffle using template tape and use a flush trim bit on the router to copy the hole. For the port cutout, I'm using a similar technique to make perfect cuts. I take 4 straight pieces of wood and attach them to the baffle using template tape, then use the router to flush trim them. With our first baffle complete, I can now trace the lines to our second piece. I want to make sure that the ports match up perfectly, so after rough cutting, I'm sticking the two baffles together and once again using the router to trim them flush. For our second baffle, I'm doing something a little bit different than what is shown in the design. The blueprint design is drawn in a manner that allows the subwoofer to be flush mounted, but I'm taking my second baffle to the next level and doing a little bit of custom template work. I'm using a smart template from Mobile Solutions and mapping out some of my design. After mapping out the side shapes, I connect the two profiles using a straight template. This is really a step that is completely up to you, a step that you can integrate your own personal preference and style. I start with rough cutting my second baffle with the jigsaw. Then I stick the smart template to the baffle, making several different cuts until my design is complete. I use these same steps to make this wooden insert that fits inside of the profile shape. Since we'll be adding edgelet plexiglass, I am now sticking the inside shape to a piece of 1/4-inch plexiglass using template tape. To cut the plexiglass, I'm using a spiral trim flush router bit. Plexiglass is dangerous to cut, so I'm sure to use extreme caution while cutting. I first cut around the outside perimeter and then drill a 1/4-inch hole near the inside perimeter, which allows me to start cutting on the inside edge. After cutting the plexiglass, I cut a small lip using a 3/16 inch rabbiting bit. This will allow me to wrap vinyl around the insert piece later, giving me a good surface to cut the vinyl. This will make more sense later when I show you. I'm also using this rabbiting bit and setting its height to the width of the LED strand that I'll be using. I'm doing this so that I can cut a channel into the inside perimeter of the second baffle piece. This gives the LED strip a place to fit. Finally, I use the rabbiting bit one more time to add a small notch to the edges of my side pieces. This will give me a place to press the carpet during the wrapping process. Once again, this will make a lot more sense later. To add a final touch to the inside profile shape, I'm using a 45-degree chamfer bit to shape the insert. Now I turn my attention to making the brace piece. After rough cutting the 4 windows, I use the Mobile Solutions Fukuda router tool to flush trim 4 rectangular windows into the brace. It's important that air can flow effectively through this brace, so I'm using a 1/4-inch roundover bit to smooth all of the inside window edges. I also use this roundover bit on the inside port pieces and the outside of our front baffle. Note on the front baffle, I have gone a little bit deeper into the wood. This is intentional to give me a good lip to cut the carpet on later. Now that our router work is complete, we can switch over to assembling our box. I like to start with assembling the back board piece to the bottom board. I always apply a fair amount of wood glue and then smooth the wood glue out on the entire surface using an old credit card. Once the glue is fully applied, I mate the two surfaces and then apply several brad nails. Then to finish up each joint, I'll simply run a bead of glue and then drag along with a gloved finger. With the foundation of our box started, I now turn to adding the sides. Note here that I'm using a spare board to make sure all the edges are good and square, and then applying more brad nails. What is absolutely critical during assembly is using plenty of wood glue and covering each joining surface 100%. After the sides are attached, I can then add my 45s. Next, I find it is easiest to assemble the port boards outside of the box. I first apply the port end brace to the port number 2 piece. Next, I attach port number 1 to port number 2 and join the two with a 45. This assembly can then be positioned into the box. Note how I've used two temporary pieces to locate the port assembly perfectly. This allows me to flip the box on its back and secure the port walls easily. In order to know where I need to shoot some of the brad nails, I have to measure the port width, draw a line, and then shoot the nails. Once fully attached, I apply more wood glue to all of the seams. At this point, I can then attach the brace piece and secure it in place. Be sure to measure the location of this piece so it does not get in the way of the subwoofer mounting hole. Next, I attach the first baffle to the enclosure. Once fully attached, I apply more wood glue to my second baffle board and secure the two baffle boards together. Now I can attach the remaining 45s on the inside of the enclosure. This is always a great time to marvel at our enclosure as we're about to finish things up with adding the top piece. To add the top piece, I apply wood glue to all surfaces and once again use my extra spacer boards to determine where to apply brad nails so they line up with the internal port boards. With the top board fully attached, we can now move on to doing upholstery for our box. I have masked off the box with masking tape so that I can start with applying vinyl. I sprayed the insert surface with spray adhesive. I also applied the adhesive to the back side of the vinyl. After allowing 15 minutes for the adhesive to become tacky, I remove the masking tape and stick the vinyl to the surface. Here I use a wooden roller to provide force and fully stick the two surfaces together. I also use a pry tool to force the vinyl under the lip of the insert shape. I can then follow up with cutting the vinyl using the edges we made earlier on the router. Next, I turn to wrapping our insert piece with the same method. The biggest thing I want to point out here is when you wrap the inside edge, you want to wrap the material around the back side of the piece. We can then use the little lip that we created earlier to cut the vinyl perfectly. The outside profile isn't as important as it press fits into the box, so the vinyl edge on the outside will be hidden. For wrapping the box with carpet, I start with spraying both surfaces, allowing 15 minutes and then sticking the two together. For the front of the box, I protect the vinyl with masking tape, along with the port. I then also use a pry tool once again to push the carpet into the lip for our LED strip. On the bottom of the box, I protect one edge of the carpet with tape and then carefully mate the two edges later using a sharp knife. For the front of the box, the LED channel once again serves as a great edge to precisely cut the carpet. When I pull the excess carpet away, the protective tape will come with it. I add the insert temporarily in order to clamp the edges of the carpet to the inside wall of the cutout so the adhesive dries in place. Next, I cut out the port, taking advantage of the edge we created earlier. For wrapping the sides of the box, I first cut out each of the corners, giving us 4 flaps. I then spray glue onto the entire side surface. From here, I fold up each flap onto the side. I press the flap into the groove we created on the side pieces earlier, and then cut from the corner of the groove to the corner of the box. With each flap, I carefully cut the two mating edges of the carpet so that they fit perfectly together. After all 4 of the flaps have been cut, I apply the side piece and then tuck it into the grooves. Now to finish things up, we need to install the LED strip. The channel we cut earlier allows us to simply add the LED strip around the outside edge of our insert. I ran the wiring to the inside of the box and connected it to a 12-volt source. Next, we add our piece of plexiglass and finish everything up with pressing in our press-fit insert. Now all we have left to do is wire up our Strato subwoofers and mount them into the box. With everything fully mounted, we can turn on the LED lights for the first time. I love the beautiful accent glow that these LED lights give to the box. What do you think? Let us know down in the comments below. Finally, a reminder that if you are planning on running a pair of 8-inch CT Sounds Strato subwoofers and would like a recommended design, be sure to check out the link on this video. Thank you again for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe to CT Sounds here on YouTube for more videos, and if you'd like to see more car audio tutorial videos, be sure to check us out at youtube.com/caraudiofabrication.